How's it going, you guys? This is Dr. Jeff, Chief Medical Officer at Rythmia Life Advancement Center, coming to you from the always beautiful Costa Rica, in the Guanacaste province on the northern Pacific side near the border of Nicaragua. It's a great spot right by the ocean with a lot of good surf, and Rythmia is doing great. And we've got a lot of awesome guests here this week. And today I want to talk about empowerment and what that means and how you can become empowered in your life to make a change. So when I think of empowerment, I think of, like my own ability to guide my life in the way that I want to, the ability to make decisions, the ability to feel good about who I am and feel confident, the ability to be assertive in healthy ways that are appropriate, and to just basically, have the strength that I need to face the challenges that life brings, right? Because life brings a lot of challenges for everybody. It's just basically what life's about. Right? That's how we learn. So if you're not empowered, and we all go through times in our life where we're not empowered. But if you feel that you're not empowered right now, the reason why it is important to shift that is so that you can get what you need out of life and what you want out of life. So empowerment is interesting because a lot of us have gone through times in our life, and maybe even currently, where we're in systems or environments that are oppressive or they're not conducive to empowering us, and actually do quite the opposite. They take away our empowerment and kind of push us down. So that can be, a variety of different settings. It can be our jobs. It can be our family dynamic. It can be our community. It can be our socioeconomic status. It can be all kinds of things. Like there's a million things that are used in certain environments to push us down and keep us from being empowered. Sometimes in governments, when the people are empowered, then they're a threat to certain government policies and beliefs. And so sometimes people view, politicians and corporations and different individuals that are, like, let's say, empowered, they view empowerment of others below them, right, as a threat. So there's often mechanisms in society to take away our power. And we can all think of a million things, and the big ones that come up for me and what I deal with here, at Rythmia with all these guests are addiction issues. It takes away our empowerment, being hooked on a ton of pharmaceuticals that aren't necessary. As you guys know from watching some of my Facebook Lives, there's pharmaceuticals that are appropriate for people. And if it's working for them, I'm all for it. But there's more so the case where pharmaceuticals are not helping the person. It's just keeping them blunted. And they have what's called an affect that is either flat or distant, meaning they're not really present. And so if I own a huge corporation and I can sell my products, whatever those products are, or even if it's an ideology, what I'd rather have my consumers do is not really think a whole lot about the ethics of what I'm doing or about their own beliefs about what I'm doing. I'd rather just have them consume my products or my beliefs. And so a lot of parts of society in the world are about this. And, it's so easy to get wrapped up in that. It's easy to be complacent. We get into these ruts, these certain habits where, I'm not really interested in changing myself. I don't really care what's going on in the world. I just want to, watch my football and just sit on the couch and just drink my beer. And I don't really care because I don't feel like I can make a change, and I really don't want to. So ultimately what's going on with people like that, and we've all been in that space, from time to time, what's going on is they just don't have enough assertiveness within themselves to make those changes. And ultimately they're unhappy. If you think about, like, what's the difference between being fully realized as an individual and kind of like shirking, like your tools and your gifts and your talents that you have and just kind of throwing them to the side and just giving in to the system. So there's a lot of opposition against people that want to be empowered. And it starts, even within your own home, in your own community, and it goes all the way up the chain to your job and businesses and government, etc. So what I want to talk about for you guys is how to get empowered and what's some ways you can do that so you can really be happy. You can really be successful in your life in the way that you feel is appropriate. So, you know, our philosophy at Rythmia is that each individual will do their own healing for themselves. And I love that because, you know, you don't need a special person. You don't need a special, you know, magic trick to cure or heal you. All you need is a safe environment and yourself to do this work. And at Rythmia, we, like I've mentioned before, we're very conducive to this safe environment. That's what we create. That's my entire day in, day out what I'm doing. I'm walking around, meeting everybody, doing intakes, and making sure everybody feels safe and is here to do the work that they need to do. Now, our facilitators and our plant medicine providers and all the people that work here, they're very unique people. They're very special people. But they are not doing the work for you. They're just creating a setting, an environment where you can do the work. So it's important that in your life, you know, because Rythmia is a 1 or 2 week gig, right? And then you're back home. So before you come here and after, and if you don't make it here, right, just your life from day to day, how do you get empowered? Well, you know, it's kind of like when you have been exercising for a long time and then you stop for a couple years and you just really don't have the motivation to do it again because you view what it was like to be fit back in the day, where it was a lot of work and it was a regular thing. You had a lot of energy, you were in shape, and you picture like, oh, I can't do that right now. I can't go back to that standard. I'm so far from that. But we all know that all it takes is just getting up and getting to that gym or getting outside and doing that exercise, even if it's obviously really slow compared to how it used to be. You just got to take those first few steps to get back on track. So at home, what you need to do is just have goals. You need to set goals for yourself. You need to say, like, all right, I don't want to sit here all weekend and just drink beer and sit on this couch and just be lazy. What I want to do is I want to exercise. I want to go have some meaningful conversations with my friends and family. I want to go and maybe give service somewhere, volunteer my time. I want to be plugged into who I am as a person so I can be helpful to others, and I can basically, you know, help myself enhance my mood. So the beauty of Rythmia is that, you know, we're doing this work really quickly for you. So we're getting you to baseline real fast. And for some people, that's really scary because you have years and years and years of all this tension and anxiety and fear and these belief systems all built up for many, many years. And to shed all that in a week or two is intimidating, right? It's scary. However, what we have going on at this place is a program that eases you into this process. We're not going to knock it into you day one. We're going to slowly give you information, work with you quickly, throughout the week to get it so each day is a different, deeper level of your own personal understanding, your own healing. So through the healing process and through shedding all of the years of anxiety and trauma and addiction and upset feelings and screwed up ways of thinking, and I call them cognitive distortions, right? The way we think about the world is not necessarily accurate. When you get through those layers and they're done in a really safe way, you have personal empowerment because you're plugged into yourself and you're connected to yourself. So the way that you plug into you is you have to shed these things, and you have to drop them off, and you have to process these emotions you haven't been able to feel, and you let them come up and they surface through you and they move on. And that part is actually pretty quick. When I talk to a lot of people when they get home, after being at Rythmia, and I check in with them, I see how they're doing. And most are doing great. Some are having a little bit of a struggle transitioning home. And I remind them, what did you learn at Rythmia? What was the practices that you learned that you can do at home? We have the breath work, we have the meditation, we have the yoga, we have the exercise, we have the healthy conversations, we have the good sort of mindful activities that we do that you can use at home. All that stuff is super important because if you're not, like I said, if you're not empowered as an individual, you can't make change for your life. So how do you get out of abusive environments? How do you get out of abusive situations? There's a whole range of what that means. Could be domestic violence, could be a really bad job where the culture is oppressive to you. It could be a community that's rough, that's, it's not safe there. There's ways in every environment, even the most horrific scenarios, there's ways that you can slowly get empowerment back and get your voice. Sometimes you have to leave those environments, and that's a big step, and that's often very hard. But there's ways to do it. And when you're plugged in and you're on this journey of seeking who you are and that you want to be empowered, what ends up happening is out of nowhere, it appears these things show up to help you realize this goal of empowerment and to get you out of these abusive environments. Now, for example, I've worked with lots of women that have been victimized and traumatized by their partners or strangers. And when it was their partner, it was a really rough scenario because they're at home, they live with this person, right? So it was hard to enable that person to make a shift because, there was economic issues and there's a lot of like logistics to it. It wasn't just only a matter of making a decision. There's a lot going on there. But what I noticed with working with all these women over the last couple decades is that when they had that intention that they wanted their environment to change and they wanted the situation they're in of abuse to shift, things started to happen for them, even if they were sometimes small. Financial assistance, some empowerment groups that were free, that were nearby. Other community members would help them. They would sometimes their partner would shift a little bit because they were shifting in a good way. And so there's these things that would sort of kind of start to roll. But if you get complacent and you just kind of say, all right, I'm accepting my fate. I'm in this horrible situation. It's abusive. I'm not empowered. I can't do anything. That's a really hard place to be. And it is hard to make change from there. And I'm not knocking the fact that, people that are in these abusive environments, they don't have a lot of empowerment. It's very little. But even if you talk to guys in prison, which I've done, you talk to guys in prison, they still have their mind, even though, they don't have their physical abilities to do much anymore. They're confined in their cell. They have to follow this routine that's super strict. They still have their mind. They can still create things and make shifts internally. And I think that was a really good lesson for me, going into talking to these guys that had, recently been on probation or in and out of jail, is that they were always able, some of the guys I worked with, they were able to maintain the empowerment of their mind. So sometimes it just starts with that, and that's an extreme example, obviously. So most of you guys aren't in prison. So thank goodness. So my hope for you is that if you feel that you're stuck and you feel that you don't have a voice and you feel that you don't have the ability to make a change, look at yourself inside, see what you can do, shift your mood, and look for things for the universe to provide for you to line up so that you can be more in sync with who you are, and then you can get a voice and you can be empowered and you can make a change. So like I said, that's what we're doing here at Rythmia. That's what we are about completely. We want people to come here that are suffering and hurting and broken and going through life transitions and confused and don't know what to do next, looking for answers. That's who we cater to. That's what we want. We want you. We all have these times in our life. That's what this is about. And with addiction in particular, that's a great example. The problem with addiction is the more people use the drugs and alcohol in an addictive manner, the less the ability they have to make a choice, because the drugs and alcohol take over that choice at some point biologically. Now, there is shifts that can occur along that way, of course, right? There's change that can occur, but it just makes it a heck of a lot harder. So if you're struggling with drugs and alcohol, there's a lot of resources for you to change. You have to kind of dig for them. Oftentimes the healthcare field isn't great at helping you. And, it's a lot of work, but you can do it. You got yourself there, you can get yourself out, right? So there's a way in, there's a way out. And come talk to us at Rythmia, because I'm an expert in that area and I know how to help you. So come down, check this place out. We're excited to have you. We're loving every guest that comes here. Everybody's so interesting, so unique. There's so many cool people here. And empowerment for change is the key to getting happy and healthy and successful in the ways that you want. And I can't wait to meet you and have this happen for you. I'm excited to have all these possibilities that are out there for the world and for you. You change yourself, you change the world. That's the reality. Okay, you guys. Thanks. Pura vida from Costa Rica. See you next time.